In this relentless world where emotions run high and the pursuit of vengeance seems like the only path to relief, there exists a timeless philosophy that offers a different perspective: Stoicism. This ancient Greek school of thought teaches us that the best revenge is silence, a concept that may seem counterintuitive yet holds profound wisdom. By embracing the principles of Stoicism, one can learn to rise above the petty conflicts that consume lives and find true inner peace. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury, Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, once stated. Next are specific Stoic reasons why the best revenge is silence. 1. Silence starves the conflict of oxygen. When we lash back against those who have wronged us, we feed the flames of conflict with our heated responses. Vengeance breeds more vengeance in an escalating cycle. But silence? Silence suffocates the situation, denying it the furious air it craves to rage on. Our impulse is to fight fire with fire, to shout back insults and defend our wounded pride. Yet the Stoics knew this path only leads to deeper turmoil. True power lies in remaining unmoved, in refusing to engage with the nonsense. Fire is the test of gold, adversity of strong men, Seneca taught. When we choose intentional silence, we demonstrate a disciplined strength. We take away the power of our offender to provoke us further. 2. Silence protects your dignity. Vengeance often arrives on a noble steed. We believe we are simply claiming justice, restoring balance to the world. But in chasing retribution, we risk compromising our own values and virtues. The high road of silence, however, keeps our dignity intact. If you once succumb and are beaten, be at peace. Don't let the same thing happen twice. And now, resolved upon better things, Epictetus wisely stated. With silence, we consciously choose the higher path. While the person who offended us may remain unchanged, our restraint elevates us as the better person. We become a living demonstration of the self-control and grounded ethics to which we aspire. 3. Silence allows objectivity. In the heat of a conflict, it's easy to have our rational thinking clouded by pure emotion. Anger and a desire for payback can possess our mind, blinding us to wise perceptions. Silence creates space to step back and apply courageous objectivity. Crave clarity, conviction, and a mind that remains tranquil in tumult, Marcus Aurelius advocated. When we seek to escalate a situation through vengeance, we become mired in biased subjectivity. But silence is fertile soil for Stoic objectivity to take root. From this more rational vantage point, we can see conflicts in a larger context and respond with real wisdom, perhaps discovering the path to resolution rather than continued animosity. 4. Silence aligns with nature. The Stoics looked to the natural world and universal patterns as guides for proper human behavior. And in nature, we rarely observe tit-for-tat retaliation or vengeful motivations. The river does not seek vengeance on the rocks that divert its flow, it simply continues onward. When a tree is struck by lightning, it does not sneer with resentment at the clouds. It stands firm, then continues growing with the nourishment it receives. That which is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bee, Marcus Aurelius remarked. Silence in the face of offenses aligns us with this natural order. Like the river and tree, we endure the inevitable difficulties, but focus our energies on constructive resilience and growth rather than destructive vengeance. 5. Silence elevates you. When faced with an insult or transgression, the small-minded instinct is to lash back in kind, to descend to the level of our offender. This tit-for-tat keeps everyone mired in the gutter. But responding with purposeful silence elevates you to the high ground. Associate with people who are able to increase your potential, not demolish it, Seneca instructed. The person slinging petty offenses wishes to pull you down into pettiness with them. Don't take the bait. When you choose not to retaliate, you humbly demonstrate you have inner resources and wisdom greater than pointless feuding. This poised silence is a show of quiet strength that makes your character tower over theirs. 6. Silence prevents rash reactions. So often we strike back in vengeance rapidly, while still riding emotional impulses and short-sighted anger. We lack a long-term strategic view, concerned only with immediate satisfaction. The Stoics knew unchecked impetuousness to be dangerously foolish. No person has the power to have everything they want, but it is in their power not to want what they don't have, and to remain fearless, undisturbed and free, Seneca cautioned. Rash revenge represents craving what we ultimately should not. When we instill purposeful silence, however, we create willful pauses that prevent reckless deeds. We take a breath, consider the long repercussions, and realign ourselves with our highest reasoning. This prevents mistakes we may regret. 7. Silence conserves energy. Plotting revenge, carrying out vengeance, and riding emotional roller coasters drain us of precious energy. The Stoics advocated conserving our finite inner resources for activities that enhance our flourishing. No great genius was ever without a mixture of madness, Aristotle reckoned. The madness of obsessing over settling scores consumes valuable life force better applied to productive aims. Intentional silence around perceived offenses allows us to bank and invest our energy into studying, creating, working, relating, pursuits that permit positive progression. 8. Silence promotes inner peace. At its core, the Stoic way teaches that the greatest good arises from inner peace and virtue, not from externally controlling forces outside ourselves. While revenge can gratify the ego, it generates restless turmoil within. True happiness is perfectly calm and free from anxiety, Seneca emphasized. Seeking vengeance enmeshes us in dramas that breed more anxiety and rancor. We cannot find lasting inner tranquility on this path. Silence allows us to cultivate the unshakable equanimity that the Stoics valued. We strengthen emotional self-mastery and remain rooted in imperturbable peace. The best revenge? Achieving this enlightened state, transcending pettiness. 9. Silence models virtue. The Stoics viewed life as an ongoing practice to refine one's virtue. Each challenge presents an opportunity to move towards or away from these high ideals. Responding with silence keeps us progressing. It would be a noble thing to approach each day's life as a disciplined philosophical exercise, Epictetus instructed. Vengeance devolves us into ignoble impulses. Thoughtful silence reflects cultivation of virtues like patience and magnanimity. By modeling this restraint, we inspire those around us to also pursue greater wisdom. This contagious presence helps shape a more harmonious world. 10. Silence frees your mind. When you fixate on grievances and burn to get back at someone, it mentally imprisons you. You surrender inner peace, always stewing on the injustice. But silence unshackles you from this obsessive cycle. There is only one way to tranquility of mind and happiness, Epictetus reminded. Let this thought be present, that you don't value things that lie outside your own free will. Silence liberates you to focus on what you can control, your own actions and reactions. It's an emancipation of the mind from being imprisoned by anger. 11. Silence disarms emotional manipulation. Those who intentionally provoke us often do so as an attempt at emotional manipulation. They want to elicit an angry or hurt reaction that makes us act out of character. By remaining silent, we refuse to be pawns in their emotional games. We take away their power to puppeteer us into behaving irrationally or saying things we'll regret. True strength lies in maintaining our composure and emotional independence, not contorting ourselves every time someone tries to jerk our strings. The silent response is a skillful form of detachment that protects our boundaries. 12. Silence severs the link of resentment. When we retaliate against those who have wronged us, we bind ourselves to an unhealthy link of resentment that can fester for years. Each vengeful action or spiteful word strengthens those shackles, tying us to the person or event in a cycle of endless rehashing of grievances. But silence breaks that link once and for all. By choosing to not pour more anger into the situation, we sever the resentful bond and free ourselves to move forward unburdened. The silence is a deliberate refusal to get mired in past wrongs. It's finding freedom through living in the present. 13. Silence provides moral fortitude. The low road of vengeance and pettiness may feel gratifying in the heat of conflict, but inevitably leads to immense inner feelings of guilt, shame, and erosion of ethical principles. Choosing silence amid offenses, however, allows us to retain the moral high ground and stand firmly rooted in our virtues and values. It's the path of holding our integrity as the highest priority, even when taking the low road is tempting. This unwavering commitment to our moral fortitude serves as an inspiration and reminder of our true selves during challenging times. 14. Silence focuses on the long game. Those seeking petty revenge tend to only think about the current provocation and attaining immediate emotional catharsis through retaliation. But the Stoics were masters at viewing life through a holistic, long-term lens. Silence allows us to stay focused on the bigger picture and life's deeper meaning and purpose, rather than getting hopelessly mired in temporal squabbles. It keeps our energies committed to the values, relationships, and ambitions that matter most in the grand scheme of our lives. Choosing silence is choosing to not become trivial and invest our limited resources into what truly matters. 15. Silence defies societal expectations. In many cultures, there exists an unspoken social expectation that offenses and insults must be directly confronted with equal or greater forcefulness. Responding with silence disrupts this assumption in a radically unconventional, almost admirable way. It essentially says, I reject your notion of how I'm expected to react. I define my own behavior, not society's scripts. This defiance of anticipated social norms in a measured, philosophical manner is the epitome of a free-thinking, self-directed life. By choosing silence, we declare our independence from the mob's way of handling conflicts. 16. Silence starves the ego. At the root of most vengeful actions lies an inflated sense of ego, the need to aggressively defend our self-image and reassert our perceived dominance over someone who threatened it. But the Stoics taught that inflating the ego was a direct cause of much suffering. When we respond to offenses with silence, it's an act of humility and ego deflation. We consciously choose to not let another person's actions overly perturb our self-perception or sense of self-worth. Their misguided conduct towards us does little to fundamentally alter who we are. In silence, we starve our egos rather than feeding them, attaining a peace of non-resistance. 17. Silence unlocks compassion. While the initial instinct when wronged may be hostile vengeance, the Stoic path of silence helps create space for something more powerful: compassion. From the spacious stillness of our silent response, we can begin to consider the roots of why the person committed the offensive act. Perhaps they were lashing out from private anguish, misguided beliefs, or their own harmful conditioning. This insight unlocks the ability to have empathetic compassion for their struggles as fellow human beings, even if we don't condone their actions. Silence provides the pause to choose this higher response over escalating animosity. 18. Silence immortalizes you. In the heat of conflict, it can be tempting to lash out and try to crush someone through heated insults or biting words meant to sting and diminish them. But the truth is, those moments of hostile vengeance, no matter how vitriolic, are ultimately fleeting and quickly forgotten. However, responding to offenses with dignified, resolved silence is what leaves a permanent, immortal impact. People may not remember the petty conflicts or what instigated them, but they will never forget the person who handled them with such poise and restraint. The one who met anger with Zen-like stillness. The one who refused to be diminished or deterred from their highest values, no matter the provocations. That person's character becomes etched into memories and lore in a permanent way. Their silent dignity that transcended the conflict immortalizes them as a pillar of inspiration for generations. The momentary satisfaction of lashing out eventually evaporates, but the inspirational power of measured silence lives on indefinitely. 19. Silence deepens your spiritual reservoir. At its deepest essence, pursuing the path of responding to conflicts with silence isn't just a mental exercise in restraint. It's a spiritual practice that steadily strengthens your innermost reservoir of peace, patience, and enlightenment. Each time you choose to not retaliate, to let go of anger's grip, you deepen the wellspring of your soul. You expand your capacity for compassion humility and understanding in the face of human imperfections. With each committed act of silence overcoming provocation, your spiritual reserves become vaster and more powerful. It's as if you build energetic fortifications around your heart and mind, protecting your inner sanctuary from being penetrated by the chaos and negativity of the external world. You cultivate a sacred, hallowed space inside yourself that remains unruffled, buoyant, and impervious to the turbulent winds of conflict. Life's difficulties become unable to deplete you or throw you off course because you have consciously constructed a deep spiritual reservoir to draw from. Silence, then, is the ultimate spiritual nourishment. 20. Silence seeds the future. When we get caught in cycles of conflict and retaliation with others, it often stems from being trapped in past grievances and endlessly rehashing old wounds. But when we choose to calmly remain silent, even if just for a singular instance, we symbolically plant a seed for the future we want to create and the reality we wish to grow. Our silence is a declaration. This cycle ends with me. I alone have the power to transcend these petty hostilities and redirect my energies towards more positive, productive endeavors, aligning with my values and vision. Each committed act of restraint from escalating conflicts, regardless of the immediate provocations, quite literally seeds and puts down roots for the enlightened future reality we wish to manifest for ourselves and the world around us. It's like looking up from the swirling winds of conflict and refocusing ourselves on the clear, higher horizon we've been meant to reach all along. Our silence acts as cosmic reinforcement that we've set a new trajectory despite the attempts to derail us. And from those first planted seeds of restraint, our desired future has a chance to finally blossom and bear fruit, no matter the conflicts that once plagued our past realities. Silence holds the creative power of transformation at our core. If you have made it this far, comment down below with the word 100% to confirm that you have received the knowledge from this video. For more interesting topics, make sure you watch the recommended video that you see on the screen right now. Thanks for watching.